Hello, everyone, and welcome to Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Our Star Wars special continues. I'm Clone Trooper Zenger.
I'm Sam Ellie.
Nobody's going to get that, but if you do, tweet at us.
I'm Rob Binks.
Ugh. All right, so we have moved on to the second episode of Star Wars. I guess before we get really into this, Ellie actually had a great idea. Ellie, if you would like to present your idea to us.
I just thought it would be kind of fun to mention kind of it doesn't have to be in order, but just 3 moments or scenes or whatever it is from the movie that you think were memorable or you really liked.
So do you want to do your 3, or do you want to each do one? I guess, Ellie, start. You can do your 3. We'll just do it that way.
Okay. One thing I loved, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about later in more detail, but the Jedi fight scene in the arena, hands down one of my favorite parts of this movie, by far. The throw-in to the like hologram of the Death Star plans.
Oh, yes.
Definitely like that little snippet in the movie. Mm-hmm. And then the seismic charges.
Oh, interesting.
I like the sound effect. I just liked everything. Boom. Yeah, it was so cool. I thought that was really neat. If you have a
sub or a surround sound system, that was really impactful.
But those are kind of the three moments that I liked. I thought were fun.
Awesome.
My 3 moments... The arena, I could name 3 moments just from the arena fight that I liked, but I'm just going to say the whole arena fight from, like, them going into their failed execution to the Jedi coming in to the chase scene afterwards. Like, that whole sequence was terrific. Another scene, this is really stupid, but it's one of my favorite parts of the movie when Obi-Wan's in the bar and there's like a space drug dealer selling him death sticks, and
you don't want to sell me death sticks.
Yes, I love that one.
Obi-Wan I don't want to sell you death sticks.
Does a Jedi mind trick. He's like, you don't want to rethink your life. You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
That was great.
Number 3. Number 3, when Obi-Wan jumps out of the freaking window
after the assassin droid,
so unexpected. He just boom.
All right, my 3, I think, would of course be the arena battle, just the whole, from...
So we got 3 for 3 on that one.
Yeah, obviously there's a going theme here from when they're brought in to fight the monsters to, I guess, the end where they're leaving with the... I mean, not saying that everything after that is bad, it's just that part I really liked. My other one, and this is kind of weird, the end of the movie, actually.
The wedding, or
no.
Well, that's the end of the movie. So
hold on.
Palpatine and everyone standing
where Yoda's discussing, where Yoda, Windu, and Obi-Wan are discussing, and it goes to Palpatine and all of them standing over the clone army, and it's like the war has begun.
And they start playing the Imperial March music.
Yes. I actually enjoyed that because it was moment. Like a build up to like, whoa, what's gonna happen next, sort of thing. Because I remember when. I always watch that. It's like this build-up to there's a war about to happen, which, I mean, a TV series does... 2 TV series have covered it, but kind of gets skipped over when we're talking about just the movies. And I guess for my last one, you know what? I kind of enjoyed the over-the-topness of the Coruscant chase. I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm including the duel with Dooku in the arena scene. There, I guess that's spam, but yeah, the speeder chase at the beginning of the movie is kind of cool. It's got some over the top stuff in it. So yeah, those are our 3, and I guess we're gonna skip the overview because I mean we did it the last time, but since we're gonna be discussing the plot immediately afterwards, I feel like
here's an overview: political hoo-ha love story fight.
That's oddly accurate. So here's the plot, and this was me taking notes during the plot, so if I may, give me 1 second. This movie's a mystery? Question mark. Who's trying to kill Padme? Question mark. Where is this mystery planet and who erased it from the archives? And why? Question mark. Who's this bounty hunter? Question mark. Who ordered the clone army? Question mark. Who is Cypher DS? I'm going to stop saying question mark. Who is Cypher DS? How do they fall in love? No, seriously, how do they fall in love? Who's Tyrannus?
Who is Tyrannus?
Well, I mean, we all obviously know, but I'm just like was writing these as it was going because there was no real sense of stuff in this. This love story is awkward. That is not a question. That was just a pure statement written down by me while watching this movie. So going to tattooing for Anakin was okay to disobey that order, but then when his master's in possible trouble on Geonosis and Mace Windu tells him, don't go to Geonosis, his automatic response is, oh, I'm not going there. So then Padme forces him to go there by going there herself. I just don't understand why he disobeyed one order, but then when he was given another order, he was fine with it. Seriously, why does Count Dooku, tell him his entire master plan? I understand Christopher Lee was a Bond villain, but why does he do the Bond villain thing by telling Obi-Wan his entire master plan?
Where's the tank with the sharks?
Exactly. I mean, he should have been sitting there in that stasis field above a tank of sharks.
Exactly.
And that would have been...
should have burned Jar Jar Binks in a wicker man at the end.
Oh my gosh, you're right. He wasn't that. Ugh. That's basically the summation that I got from jotting down notes while I was watching the movie, just based on the plot.
Lots of questions.
Yes, I don't know. It's just Star Wars for me has never been a mystery.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of mysteries in this movie. I mean, yes, I know a lot of answers to these questions, but within the context, it doesn't really answer a few of these.
In Anakin's defense, I mean, maybe he just wanted to save his mom more than he wanted to save Obi-Wan.
We'll talk about that later. So that's kind of a very weird and summed up plot overview. So some new characters were introduced in this movie. Of course, new actors were introduced. Hayden Christensen, of course, playing the older now Anakin Skywalker. You have Count Dooku / Darth Tyrannus, played by Christopher Lee, who is a former Jedi Master who's kind of turned to the dark side and is become Sidious's new Padawan. You also have the cloners on Kamino, and another character that I think is pretty important that got introduced is Jango Fett, because apparently all of the clones were based off of him, and that is also Boba Fett's.
And he wanted a untouched,
unaltered clone.
Yes, clone.
Which is Boba Fett.
Right.
Well, I've got an interesting character. Who else enjoyed the presentation and the presence of Master Cypher DS? Who thought that character was just such a great character to have in a movie? Does anyone know who Cypher DS is within the context of the movie? He's a very important character. If you forgot, he's the one that orders the clone troopers.
Right, and just going in and watching that movie, for the first time, I remember going, who?
Yeah,
what?
It kind of struck me as odd that there's this character that they talk about.
That should be pretty important.
That you don't really learn much about him aside from the fact that he died.
Right.
And then he ordered a clone army. Does anyone... It's just... I don't know. That's just weird to me that character was kind of omitted.
Right.
Well, from being more fully explained. Like I said, that was one of my questions, was who ordered the clone army? Wait a second. Who's Cypher DS?
Right.
All right. So those are some of the newer characters that got introduced. Of course, we have Hayden Christensen as Anakin, who... I mean, this is the first time we're seeing him do this.
This is a much older Anakin.
Yes.
Whereas Padme is a not much older Padme.
Yes, did not look like she aged a day. Even though Natalie Portman doesn't look like she's aged a day still, technically.
Still, it's kind of weird, though. Anakin grew up pretty quick, and Padme did not.
So, some themes. Let's get into the themes, because there's a lot of different themes going on and stuff going on in this movie. And Ellie, I figured you'd want to lead that charge because you have some stuff on that.
So, one of the main themes that I noticed in the movie, of course, is Anakin's control over emotions. So, just the typical control of emotions and the struggle for him, being that he is a he is a Jedi, and they're supposed to have control over that stuff. Of course,
especially anger, hate, and fear, which he seems to exhibit a lot in this movie.
And the main one, of course, is forbidden love.
Dun dun dun.
You know, you have the love story between Padme and Anakin throughout the movie. Obviously, it's a huge struggle. They both seem to want to love each other. Him more obsessed, I think, than about her than she is about him. I think she has feelings for him at that point, but not to the level I think that he has.
So you're talking about in the beginning of the movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and that's kind of starts the downfall of him because he gets borderline obsessed with her. He just doesn't understand, you know, why it can't work. And you have to be careful with, because emotions, attachment can lead to obsession.
Clouds your judgment.
Yep. And they're allowed to have compassion.
Yes.
But they're not supposed to necessarily love.
And let's not forget, Padme gets uncomfortable when Anakin watches her sleep.
Yeah, that was such
Well,
an
who
awkward... There's so many awkward moments, and I know that you kind of, when we were pre-discussing this, I'm sure you're going to say it after I'm done making this statement, there was so many awkward moments where she's like, I don't like you looking at me like that, or I don't like...
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she's in love with him? I mean, is it...
Well, that's the whole forbidden love. I think she wants to give in to her feelings, but she has a duty as a senator, and he has a duty as a Jedi, and so she can't... You know, she's trying to not go into that because she feels like her duty outweighs her, you know,
Yes.
her feelings. So, but apparently they just decide screw it and just go for it.
Eventually, yes.
And Anakin's kind of a stalker.
Yeah, really. Like I said, it's just awkward comments he makes, and it just kind of all of a sudden she's like, "I love you," when they're on Naboo. So
Right,
it's hinted at on Naboo. It's hinted at when they're on Tatooine, and then it's kind of confirmed when they're on Geonosia, when she's like, "I've been dying every day since you've come back into my life."
Well, and speaking of stalker, to go off of Rob's stuff, is I can't forget, it keeps coming into my mind how she makes the comment of "Oh, Annie, I still remember you as that little boy," but then she can be attracted to him, so it's kind of weird too. So it kind of goes both ways.
Well, don't forget, Jar Jar also said, "Oh, little Annie."
Yes.
So some other thing. I mean, I know that there's probably a few more themes, but one I want to go on real quick is the political side of this, which apparently watching these movies again has given me a new sort of light into the... Everyone complains about all the political stuff, but I'm like, you know what? Why don't I watch it and, you know, try to watch it with that storyline in mind? And I truly think that this is showing the downfall of the democracy that is created within the movie by each step of, you know, how it's failing. They mentioned that Newt Gunray has been, you know, indicted or, you know, charged several times, but somehow keeps getting away because the Senate can't really lock it down. Once again, there's more systems going over to the Trade Federation and going to the Separatists. Very... U.S. during the pre-Civil War times, you know, obviously there's a divide that is becoming because they feel that the Senate isn't doing enough and isn't helping or supporting their systems, so they're going to somebody who they feel will. Another theme that's very present and is always present in Star Wars, because it's very blatant, is, of course, Germany and Hitler. Chancellor Palpatine's rise to power, I mean, he gained more power in this movie because of Jar Jar Binks and the whole, you know, giving him the ability to have, you know, the power to make decisions without the Senate being able to vote on it, which allows them to use the cloned army, which, as we spoke of earlier, Cypher Diaz created. And apparently there is, if you look into the Star Wars mythos, it does explain that whole entire storyline of how the clones got created, you know, why he was involved. Dooku was involved in that too. But it's not mentioned in the movie, so we're not going to really touch on it too much here. Because, once again, in the movie, it doesn't really explain who Cypher Diaz was and why he created the army. I just thought that was interesting how it shows, once again, the continuing degrading of the Senate and allowing for someone like Palpatine to seize complete power and turn it over into an empire Whereas in episode 3, we're going to hear, so this is how Liberty dies, with thunderous applause, because they feel that all the systems feel that threatened or that need for this. But of course, the Senate now has a military. They're now a military force as well, and the Jedis are going to lead that apparently.
Well, and I'd like to kind of piggyback off of the Jar Jar thing. I think, like with Jar Jar, I think it's funny if you go back to episode 1.
Yeah.
And you know how
we have to go so far back, by the way.
Yeah, man. When you go back to episode 1, and you know the reason why Jar Jar was originally just out and about running in the field is because he was exiled.
Yeah.
Yes. And why was he banished?
He messed with the...
Well, not specifically.
Oh, just for...
he's bad luck.
Yeah.
Like, he was always messing up things, and
he knocked over the boss's, like, headdress or something, I think.
I think he just says he was clumsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just always... bad stuff happened around him. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of keep that... I feel like that was almost foreshadowing, too, because then what is he kind of to the Jedi Order? He's you know, they saved him and wanted to take him on, and now he's just as bad luck because him standing in for Senator Amidala, basically...
He's the vote.
He was the reason the motion...
Yes.
The motion was given to start to be able to have him get Supreme... Palpatine get supreme powers. He was the reason, you know, like we said, for the motion to start to give Palpatine supreme powers, which indirectly was responsible for the fall of the Old Republic. So, once again...
The New Republic.
Yeah. He was, like, extremely bad luck.
And apparently, there is a conclusion to his storyline and what happens to him after Episode 3, but we'll save that for our discussion on the expanded universe stuff and, you know, what happens outside the movies. Discussion which we'll be having soon. Yeah, like I said, some other themes. You said that hatred and fear or something that's in here.
Well, I don't... Yeah, and... When, you know, when Anakin went to hunt down the Tusken Raiders, it was interesting because they claim, I've read some stuff and I need to kind of go back and watch it again to see. I don't know if you all noticed it, but they say that Qui-Gon's voice can be heard in the background.
Yes.
I didn't notice it, but...
When Yoda is feeling the effects of what's happening, you hear Qui-Gon yelling.
Right, and so that was his Force ghost.
Apparently.
Trying to get him to calm it down because he was afraid if he continued and did what he did, that it would be like a downward spiral for him.
I'm going to break the rules real quick and talk about Episode 3, because I did watch the beginning of that today, just to have a comparison for the... graphics and the special effects they used in each movie to see how much they improved. There's a part where Palpatine, near the beginning of the movie, after the duel with Count Dooku, this is of course Episode 3 I'm talking about, for a split second, since it's relevant to this, where he says, "Remember what you told me about the Tusken Raiders?" And you can hear like the Tusken Raider sound like really softly in the background.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, is that supposed to be funny, or I don't know, it's so awkwardly put in there.
Anytime I hear the Tusken Raiders sound,
it's so awkward.
Okay, after this we're not going to go off topic again, but you guys see Fanboys?
Oh, yeah.
The scene at the end with the Tusken Raider in the movie theater during the 20th Century Fox logo, like, for some reason when I saw that I died laughing, and now I laugh anytime I hear the Tusken Raider sound effect.
Alright. Well, like I said, I'm sorry to jump ahead a movie, but you mentioning that Qui-Gon thing made me think of that, because I heard that sound, and I'm sitting there, like, looking around, like, was that for real? But yes, it is. Yoda's sitting there, and Qui-Gon is yelling, "Anakin, Anakin," and that is supposedly his Force ghost, yes. Okay. So that is interesting.
Seems a good view of the fear leads to anger thing.
Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to...
Because he essentially goes to Tatooine because because of fear.
Yeah, because of fear of what's happened to his mother, and he keeps on bringing up he can't sleep, all this stuff. And so he goes there once again throughout this passionate love story that's going on. I don't think you heard the
Across the galaxy.
I don't think you heard the giant quotation fingers I used for the love story part. I'm sorry I'm being hard on that love story, but it's just weirdly written. And Star Wars isn't known for its writing qualities.
It's
at
still
times.
still a better love story than Twilight.
But the thing I wanted to mention is this is a very interesting thing with themes of what's going on with Anakin. When they're burying his mother, he makes a very interesting statement. He says that, I wasn't strong enough to save you. And I know we're kind of jumping ahead once again to episode 3, but what does he try to do in episode 3? Gain more power so he can stop someone else from dying. So I did not notice watching it before that there's this stuff that they were seeding that early.
Yeah, it's foreshadowing.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things, I guess I didn't notice it when I watched it originally, that they were seeding it back then. That happens on Tatooine and everything, and like I said, the whole thing on Geonosis is weird because another theme is, of course, the Sith, trying to overthrow each other. What is Count Dooku trying to do when he has Obi-Wan there? He's trying to convince him to join him so they can overthrow his master and to seize power from him. So I'm just like, it's once again the whole, one has power, one craves power in the Sith, and that's shown there once again. But yeah, so I guess that sort of covers a lot of the themes in this movie. Oh, and of course, war. War is an obvious thing, like the prelude to war, and then it actually starting too.
Right.
The March of War. So, impact on the series.
As far as the impact on the whole series, I like every Star Wars movie. This movie is probably the least important.
I know in the Machete Method it was mentioned that this one is where you should start and just skip one. I don't know.
There's a lot in this movie that you just kind of have to sit through, like
season 4 of Naruto.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Hey. I'm sorry. Your face.
Wide miss, Ellie. Factually correct, but a wide miss.
We should not cut this out at all.
No, it's not. Let's go on. Let's move this along.
What are we talking about again?
All right. You were discussing this episode
impact
not being
on the series. Yeah. So there's this movie, like, it has the least impact on the series of all the six movies, or
8 technically.
Whatever.
Well,
8 soon to be 9.
Yeah. I don't know. Kind of the least impact. I mean, it starts a story about a republic that turns into the Empire, and that story kind of starts in this movie, but we don't really see it get to where it is until episode 3.
My impacts on the series are you kind of get an origin to Boba Fett, which, I mean, I don't know about you guys. I think this might be in our light discussion section, but I don't know. It just, him being a clone of Jango Fett was kind of just a thing for me. It wasn't, like, I didn't need that. I feel Boba Fett is a cooler character the less I know about him.
Yeah, it's also a backstory to a side character.
It is. That, like I said, it was kind of... I feel that this movie is fan pandering. So, actually, impact on the series. I feel that this is the most fan pandering movie at times. I know that you're probably... someone's going to come at me with The Force Awakens.
I already did.
You did before we recorded, but I'm just saying they put in the clones, basically clone troopers, stormtroopers. They also had, the origins for Boba Fett, and I don't know, it just felt like they were Tusken Raiders. It felt like it was fan pandering at times. It also had a lot more Jedi battles, which I'm not saying that's a negative thing. I'm just saying it felt more.
Yeah. They found a way to bring C-3PO back.
Yes, and R2-D2 was in there, and I don't know. It just like I said, I just feel like this one was a little bit more pandering at times. Oh, and the Death Star. The Death Star was technically introduced. The plans were on Geonosis, and Dooku got him to take him back to Coruscant. That is something that's kind of vaguely important, that the plans were there for this from way back even then. So, like I said, impact on the series. That's my thing on it. It contributed a little bit, and like Rob said, it did help that story along of how how the democracy became an empire. Ellie, what do you think about the entire impact? I mean, you've discussed love and hate in this, so do you think that this had a huge impact on that in the story?
No comment.
No comment?
Yeah.
All right. You just upset about your Naruto statement still?
No, my Naruto statement was perfectly fine. All the anime fans out there will completely understand what I was trying to say with that. Thank you very much.
All right, now we're going to move into probably the beef of this.
Influences?
Oh, sorry, my bad. Yes,
The beef of
influences.
this topic influences.
Sorry,
Thank you. I would like to take lead on this one. Thank you very much.
No problem. I accidentally skipped one down and went to open discussion.
You're such a meanie face.
I am.
Okay, so I would like to say that there were a couple movies that were huge influences on this movie.
All right.
Lawrence of Arabia was one of them.
All right.
You remember, I'm going to say this wrong, so I apologize. Theed Palace? Is it Theed?
I don't.
Zahid Theed?
You're looking at me like I know. I don't, sadly.
Why don't you know?
I don't know.
Okay. It was basically the like throne of royalty on Naboo. But it was filmed at Plaza de España, which is where, in Lawrence of Arabia, is where they had the Cairo Great Britain Army headquarters. And both the Star Wars scenes from that same Plaza de España were shot in a very similar style. So Lawrence of Arabia, which is really interesting, but that is an influence for the movie. And then The Searcher, which was a John Wayne film.
Oh.
A lot of the like classical Western movies, there was a lot of influences throughout the series, actually, in a lot of the different Star Wars movies. But for this one in particular, you know how when we were talking about Anakin and the Tusken Raiders?
Yes.
Which we like to reference a lot this time. The scene where he's looking over and into the camp to save his mother was a very similar, that scene was kind of modeled after a scene where John Wayne observes a, I'm going to say this wrong, I'm so sorry, to Comanche camp to save his niece.
Fun fact about that scene, you do notice that Tatooine also has 2 moons, apparently, as well as 2 suns.
Nice.
Just something I noticed there, that they have 2 moons on that planet as well.
The scene from A New Hope where Luke finds his aunt and uncle killed, that's also very similar to a scene in The Searchers. It's been pointed out before.
Yeah, they mentioned that The Searchers was an influence for a lot of Star Wars movies, in different scenes throughout the series.
Interesting.
Yeah. So a little bit of classical Western mixed into our sci-fi adventure.
And normally, Star Wars takes a lot from, classical Westerns, but also from samurai films and stuff like that, too, which I'm sure we'll get into when New Hope comes around. That will be more of a present thing there. I think this one might be the official most references to other movies in the series.
Any movie where someone has to fight in a Roman arena.
There's that too. There's the arena fight. All right, so now I think we're gonna get into the core of this discussion, which I feel is the open discussion on this, where we're gonna really, I guess, this is gonna be the meat and potatoes of this whole thing, because there's a lot of stuff we've kind of touched on that now we're gonna really get into discussing. First thing being, Rob.
Okay, so this movie's easy to tear apart because there's a lot that you kind of just have to force yourself to get through. But I will say about this movie, once you get to the arena at the end,
at that point, I feel that this movie just moves along.
Yeah, and turns into a whole great action sequence because it starts off with them not getting executed, then the clones show up. Pretty much like the movie really ends with some great action scenes.
I really like the way that they filmed that because they used like the zoom in at times, like where it was on the battlefield, looked like it was being shot with person at a camera and would like zoom in on like a ship going by. I think that they did a very great job with that. The Jedi battle at the end, where the Jedis were fighting in the arena, was really cool.
That.
I mean, can you call it a fight between Jango and Mace?
No.
Not really.
No.
I mean that was pretty one-sided.
It is pretty cool though when Jenga kills the giant rhinoceros.
Oh yeah, where he just does the
one shot.
That's it. Headshot.
Yeah.
So what stuff? I mean, Ellie, what's some of the stuff that we haven't talked about yet that you'd like to bring up?
I mean, just anything?
Yeah, it's open discussion time, except for now our final thoughts.
Oh, okay. Well, one thing I would like to list that I think it's interesting of a couple people that tried out for the part of Anakin.
Ooh, you always come in with these like really. I try to just look at the movie and you're like, what can I grab that's?
I know, it's the girl in me. I'm like, oh, fun facts. Well, the late Paul Walker.
Oh.
And Ryan Philippe. I always say his name wrong. Is it Philippe or Felipe or?
I'll go with Felipe.
I've heard it pronounced Felipe.
Okay.
I'll go with Felipe.
Okay. So both of those I thought was very interesting that they both were up for the role.
Interesting.
Of Anakin and the older Anakin.
Yes.
Ryan Felipe might have been able to hit the stalker Anakin on the nose better than Hayden.
I don't know. He's pretty creepy still in that.
Yeah, he was in the I Know What You Did Last Summer. Wasn't that him?
Yeah, he's also in Cruel Intentions where...
Oh, yes, he was.
He has a bet where he gets to bang his stepsister if he wins.
Ugh.
Fun times. Well, and one other I really thought was really cool. I thought that was exciting. You know how a lot of movies have them set up where they'll have like cameos and that kind of thing with people in the background?
Yes.
When they go to the Outlander Club, which is the sports bar on
Coruscant. Yeah.
A couple people that were in the background that you may not have noticed was Ahmed Best, who is the Jar Jar Binks, the guy
actual
that voices it, and Anthony Daniels is also in that background scene as well.
So the guy who does C-3PO.
Correct.
Awesome.
Yes. I thought that was really neat.
I know that there's a fun one, since if you're going to do this for episode 3, there's a fun one in there too.
Okay.
So...
See if I find it.
Yes.
Challenge accepted.
No, so hold on, let me get my notes back up. So my, like, kind of open discussion thing is, what's your guys, I mean, I know this should be something in episode 3 that we should discuss, but I'm going to...
Stop talking about episode 3.
I'm just going to mention it now.
You've already mentioned 2 things from episode 3.
All right. The rotating villain.
Yeah.
I mean, of course you got, the Emperor, but then you've got, like, a rotating, adversary that they actually fight. Because, I mean, the first one you had Maul, and this one you have Dooku. Like, does anyone else, how do you guys feel about that rotating villain? Or do you think it should have been one apprentice through the entire time?
I guess they're just trying to keep it fresh so people don't get bored, but I don't know.
I mean, I never really thought about, but I mean, like, you had to have a villain like, you couldn't just have, like, bad guys for the sake of bad guys. You needed someone to fight with a lightsaber at the end.
But could Maul have, well, he survives according to canon, but...
I mean,
could you have had Maul in that position?
I kind of get annoyed when they kill characters and then they're not really dead, so I'm glad and who better to bring in than Christopher Lee?
I'm not arguing his character, but of course I'm gonna jump to episode 3 again. He bites it, and then you have Grievous and of course Sidious himself. So I just don't.
I definitely like Count Dooku better than Grievous.
Grievous was interesting. I just thought he would be like an interesting kind of side character, which he kind of is, and I don't know. The villain rotation in the prequels is kind of weird. I guess it's because in the original Star Wars you have Vader and the Emperor, and a few generals who rotate through, but it's just you have those two main villains and bounty hunters. So I mean,
Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, so it's kind of different to have it this way, to where there's like rotating main baddie that's the assistant to the big baddie or the apprentice to the big baddie.
I don't know. I never gave it much thought. I'm just, okay, here's the bad guy for the movie.
Yeah, that's who it is this time.
Another thing that's kind of, I guess, can be mentioned here is the music. Mm-hmm. I think is very interesting in this. There's a few homages, and this is something that we did not mention in the first one, which we should have.
Right.
Music is very important in this series. There is a few homages to, of course, Vader's music, the Duel of Fates, and this one I think is very important, the Imperial March, when it shows the troopers.
Right.
So that was, I think, a very interesting way to, emphasize certain scenes and kind of give a call. Well, technically a call back, but also at the same time foreshadowing.
The love scene music in the movie is surprisingly really good. Like, it almost should have been used for, like, a better love story, but the scene at the end where they're like playing the music while they're like going into the arena, and Padme's like, Anakin's like, you said destroy our lives, and she's like, our lives are already gonna be destroyed. Like that moment had a pretty good impact with help from the music, making it a lot more dramatic than the actors did.
I guess now we'll move into, anyone else got any?
Alright, so one issue I do really have with one scene in this movie is the chase scene between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Jango Fett. I don't like that they go through an asteroid field, because as C-3PO says in Empire Strikes Back, the odds of successfully navigating through an asteroid field is approximately 320 to 1.
320 million, I think it is.
I don't know, but anyway.
Some number to 1.
So, like, it was kind of a real last resort thing for Han Solo to fly through an asteroid field. And in this movie, they go, it's not a technical asteroid field. It's asteroids in a ring around a planet. So I guess, like, maybe it's less hectic, but it really kind of takes away from the epicness of the Han going into an asteroid field last resort thing from Empire, when Obi-Wan and Jango Fett fly through asteroids just because they kind of can.
I feel like that's kind of fan pandering, though, to have another asteroid field fight.
It's fan pandering, but it also really takes away from the original scene, I think.
Which, once again, that's why the machete method works best.
Yeah. I think the scene at the beginning is interesting, where Anakin and Obi-Wan are hired to protect, or not hired, but they're brought in to protect Padme.
Yeah, that's interesting, because, I mean, what do Jedi really do? They seem like a master of all trades, apparently.
Yeah. They wear all hats.
Yeah.
Anakin says investigation is implied because this is a job for local security, and then Obi-Wan's like, you will learn, my young Padawan, you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. But then when they actually try to assassinate Amidala, it's Obi-Wan that jumps out the window and grabs on the little droid thing. And I think that's the most over-the-top scene in the whole movie, is when Obi-Wan jumps out the window.
So, this is something interesting. So, Jango Fett hires a bounty hunter, who then uses a droid to try to off Padme.
Bounty hunter hires a bounty hunter,
who then uses a droid. But then the droid, for some reason, goes directly back to her? I don't know. That's just something. It's like, wouldn't it fly off anywhere else? Or it's like, oh crud, I got this guy on me.
Well, if it's programmed to return to its.
But why?
He didn't expect Obi-Wan to jump out the freaking window after it.
Yeah, that's just, I don't know. It's just a funny. And
I laugh at that scene. Just
the whole chase is ridiculous. The whole chase is ridiculous. I mean, it's good. It's just kind of ridiculous because there's the part where Anakin jumps out of the car thing, And
I'll say it before and I'll say it again. I'm sorry. It's very similar to
Fifth Element.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just when I first saw that scene, I immediately thought of Fifth Element.
Well, I'm saying car, but it's the transport
The
they're in.
hover, whatever.
Which, by the way, they fly by somebody who looks like Sebulba. Is that supposed to be Sebulba in the car where he gets all ticked off? Because there's a Doug in a vehicle that gets all ticked off that he almost got like he's in a taxi.
I don't know, but
I'm just saying, it's just kind of a random throw-in thing there. He jumps out, and then Obi-Wan looks down and goes, I hate it when he does that, which is implying that this is something he does regularly. Also, earlier in the chase, they went through those power couplings, and he made a comment then to Anakin about, how many times have I told you don't fly through power couplings? How many times do they have speed chases through Coruscant?
apparently at least 2 or 3 times a day on a regular.
I don't know. That's just me nitpicking this movie and the chase scene, which, like I said, it's just kind of it's a nice way to get into the action.
How many times has Anakin lost his lightsaber?
That is another thing that consistently happens in this movie.
And Obi-Wan just always hands it back, like, how many times have I told you not to lose it?
And then when he's in the facility, when he's in the factory, he gets it destroyed, and he's like, oh, Obi-Wan's gonna kill me. Also, there's foreshadowing there of his hand getting stuck, and that's the same hand that does get cut off.
Later in the movie.
Yeah, this movie has a lot of foreshadowing in it. I guess another thing is the Yoda versus Dooku fight. What did you guys think of that? Because that was the first time you got to see Yoda fight.
It was pretty cool. I like the way they didn't go right into the fighting.
It was a build-up.
I kind of liked the build-up of the Force powers being used before.
It was a true, like, master versus master thing where it's like, let me use the Force, see if I can stop him with that. Oh, they're both equally matched.
Yeah, well, and he says that.
Yeah.
He was like, we can't determine this by using... I can't remember exactly what he says, but he basically says that. So.
Also, another interesting thing, you find out that Dooku was Qui-Gon's master, and that Yoda was Dooku's master in this. Not that it really, I don't think, has any relevance after this movie. Or
it's just neat the way they're all connected.
Yeah,
like
it is to show, different generations of who's trained who.
I remember I actually saw Episode 2 on my 16th birthday. I remember walking out of the theater and seeing Yoda fight with a lightsaber was all we talked about.
Yeah,
that's what we left the movie talking about.
Seeing it for the first time, I think that was an awesome scene. It's still cool now, but compared to some stuff that happens later...
The problem is, after that, we saw Yoda fight with a lightsaber a lot, and it's just, now it's not as impressive to watch now, but when you first saw it, and you saw, like, Yoda actually had a lightsaber, like, it was a happy moment in the movie theater.
Interesting. All right, so now we're going to have our final thoughts, and we've got a quick announcement at the end that Ellie will be doing for us about the next thing we'll be covering, because there is a correction to that. We've decided to change up the thing a little bit, and she'll explain that in a moment. But our final thoughts on Attack of the Clones.
It's a blockbuster. It's not a life-changing movie, but at the same time, if you're just flipping in a movie to watch something, it's a pretty entertaining watch. You gotta sit through, it's a good movie to clean your house while watching, and by the time you're done, like, you'll hit the right action scenes, or, movie to have on while you're doing your laundry.
I can agree with that.
But
then you really miss who,
I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yes.
I do like this movie. In fact, I'm one of the ones who likes it better than Episode 1. Like, I didn't really cringe that much at any, except for maybe some of the sand talk but yeah, it's a blockbuster, but it's entertaining.
I'll go next. Ellie will be last on this one.
Oh, gosh.
No pressure. My final thoughts on this are, if I were to rank all the Star Wars, this would probably be at the lowest point for me.
You're so basic.
Whatever. It needed to do... it had to set up stuff. And I think that's its flaw is it was trying to juggle too many things at once at certain points in the movie. And I felt the action scenes at the end, like I said, I feel like we all agreed that from the arena battle on was solid.
Yes.
Everything leading up to that was kind of like a hit or miss moments. I feel like they were trying to pander too much at times. So that's my thing is, if you're watching all of them, you do need to watch this because it does have some important plot points in it. But I feel it could probably be trimmed down some because it feels long. So that's my final thoughts.
I kind of agree with both of you on certain points.
Now disagree with us and make us all angry.
No, I don't. That's not me.
Okay.
Rob, I agree with his point about it's a movie that I could have on in the background while I'm doing other stuff. And I'm like, oh, this part's coming up, and I'll watch it. And then I might do something for a little bit because I'm like, eh. And with you, Zenger, I also agree with it could be shortened. So I think it would be a better movie if it was trimmed down a little bit. I feel like they beat us in the head over the love story. Do I think it's kind of an interesting love story? Yes. Do I think that they over and over and over explained everything? Yes. So that's my problem is just they focus so much on the love story and not enough about the coming war and more of those awesome scenes like at the end of the movie. So it was okay. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's a blockbuster. But it was entertaining enough, but definitely not my favorite or one of my favorites.
All right, with that, we're going to wrap this up today. This has been our discussion / review / I don't know, whatever we're doing. This has been our Star Wars episode for episode 2.
Right.
Attack the Clones. And Ellie, you have an announcement that we need to make about a scheduling issue that has come up involving our next episode.
I wouldn't know if I would say issue, but I was thinking about it, and I just figured that we should go ahead and do episode 3 first. Mm-hmm. So in April, our Star Wars episode will be episode 3, so we can finish that so we could finish the prequel trilogy. And then in May, we will do the expanded universe discussion. Which
can be, we haven't decided 100% on what that's going to be, but it's going to be...
It could be comic books, video games,
TV shows.
The Clone Wars TV shows, maybe Rebels.
Yes. Now don't forget, there's going to be technically kind of 2 of those.
Right. So we can break it up into
So if there's something we don't cover in that one, don't get angry. Let us know.
And we can make sure to bring it up in the other one.
Bingo.
Yeah, exactly.
In our first episode, we did mention that we were going to be doing that next, but we decided to switch up the order. So with that, what are some of the best ways to listen to us?
Well, you can check us out at SoundCloud, Zeng This.
You can find us on iTunes, Zeng This. Give us a 5-star review. We greatly appreciate it. You can also find us on Facebook.
Zeng This.
You can find us on Twitter.
At Zeng This.
You can find us on Instagram at Zeng This Podcast. You can also find us playing games on Twitch.
Occasionally.
Twitch.tv/Zeng This. You can also find us on YouTube, Zeng This.
And Stitcher.
And Tuned In. Mm-hmm. And you can also, if you want to help support the podcast, you can go to www.patreon.com/Zeng This. And finally, if you would like to get in contact with us directly, you can always get us at
zengthis@gmail.com.
Finally,
send us an email.
DJ Golden Boy, play us out.
89.
I want to go home and rethink my life. You will learn your place, my young Padme and...
Padawan.
I said Padme.
My young Padme.
And